Hey guys, Morelli here, and today I'm going to be trying something a little different. I'll be using someone else's team. This is a team built by Kim-ho, a Korean player. He has gotten to ninth place in the early ladder with the Zygarde team. Zygarde is a really cool legendary. I really like its design. So I gave this team a try. One thing I did notice though is that this team is very not prepared for offensive Eternatus, which admittedly was not very common in the early ladder, so he had no problem facing it. But there's so much on this team that simply cannot beat it 1v1. Zapdos, Cinderace, Rillaboom, of course, can't do much back. And the only switch in, I guess, the only thing that resembles a switch in is Tyranitar, which actually gets 3-hit KO'd by the Specs Dynamax cannon. So so you can't even rest loop it. So that is a really poor matchup, and I did end up facing it a couple of times while I used this team. I just there was very little I could do. But other than that, I did find this to be a very solid team, so here it is if you guys want to try it. And question of the day, my throat is a lot better, so I'm going to try commentating more of my matches on this one. And tell me guys if this is better or you guys prefer a bit of a less talking type of video like the ones I did for the Cure and Black ones. Now let's get into the battles. The first game I am against Jack, who is using Zekrom. It's a very cool team. He has Hippowdon to help Zekrom set up, has a bunch of good Fire Water Grass Core with the Finny Cinderace Rillaboom. So he is not just relying on the Zekrom setup win. For me, I'm going to be bringing the Rillaboom, which has good matchup against the Hippowdon and the Finny, and Zygarde should counter its other matchups, mainly the Heatran and the Cinderace. But the one thing I am worried about is the Zekrom here, which I don't really have a very solid answer to, but I'm going to be using my Ditto, try to see what I can do there. I do end up catching the Finny's lead against my Rillaboom. I am a bit faster with with my Rillaboom to his Finny, so he sets up the Mr. Terrain second. And here I'm going to be going no nonsense here with the Wood Hammer. He has quite a few grass resists, but I am just interested to see what he brings. But what I was not expecting is the Protect. Quite an interesting move on the Finny. I'm not exactly sure what he is trying to do with it, but I am almost certain with the Protect Finny that he does have some kind of a grass resist in the back, and I'm going to be just double switching out here into my Zygarde, which should have a good matchup against everything he will go to, including the Zekrom here, because of the Misty Terrain, which is going to make sure that I am not weak to Dragon. And he does go into Zekrom here, so this is, even though I did get the double switch correct, this is not a comfortable situation for either of us. I am a bit scared of Zekrom doing setup or just Dynamax attacking me here. So I'm just going to go for the Max Quake. That should make me live any dragon move he goes for, and that should also do quite a bit of damage to his Zekrom in case he tries to go for something silly like a Dragon Dance. And he does not Dynamax. I am almost certainly slower, so I am happy with whatever he goes for. He does go for the Dragon Dance here. Should mean that he is going to be taking a ton of damage from this Max Quake. I am uninvested on this Zygarde, so not surprisingly, it does not do enough to KO. And that's exactly what I meant by I'm a bit scared of him just going for the Max Drake, because that would mean that he wasn't going to be 2-hit KO'd by that Max Quake. I certainly was not expecting that weakness policy, but I have no options here. I am just going to go for the Max Quake again. But most of the damage has already been dealt before his HP was doubled. So thankfully, I should still be able to revenge it with the Rillaboom if something goes wrong here and I lose this 1v1. And he goes for the Max Wormwind. And that does nowhere near enough. Wow, Zygarde is really tanky. But I guess the bigger question here is that do I KO back? Because there's a good chance I don't with the attack drop. But thankfully, I do. That felt really close, actually. And with the Zekrom gone, that is the biggest threat out of the way. And I should be able to handle everything with either the Zygarde or if the only thing that is problematic for me to deal with using Zygarde is the Finny. And I have the Rillaboom for that. And once Rillaboom comes in, it's going to be getting a kill on something. So this is a pretty good position for me to be in. And in fact, I'm going to be recovering all the way back to 2/3 HP with this uh, effect. And he brings in Cinderace. So I just go for the Max Quake here. Whatever he does, I should be able to get this Max Quake off. So I go first. That means that this is counter Cinderace. But that means that everything is just going to get Grassy Glided by Rillaboom. So that is my end game. He goes for the counter. That should do a lot to me. But I do have a really high HP stat. So that is not even going to knock me out. That is crazy. And Rillaboom is going to clean up the game from here. So let's see what the Cinderace goes for. I am probably in high jump kick range, but I'm just going to go for the 1,000 arrows. No need to try to preserve the Zygarde. And he goes for the Sucker Punch, so that is not even going to KO. He goes for the Sucker Punch. That does 40. Wow, so that wasn't even too hard KOing from that low in HP. So physically defensive, Zygarde-Complete coming in clutch there with the survivals. And he is going to be Finny last. There's no way Finny can beat this and the Rillaboom in the back, which I have already revealed. So he's going to surrender here. So that one felt nice, right? I was able to get a double switch in. Zygarde just basically soloed this team. But let's go back to turn 2. Because this turn did not feel, I guess, clean for me at all. Without thinking even too much about it, it is pretty evident that this was the pivotal turn here. And let's see if I could have done better. Because if he were to have Max Draked me in that 1v1, there was no way I was winning that, especially with the weakness policy. Weakness policy has 34% usage, so I definitely should have known better. And because I am Sash Ditto, I need to be able to win the 50-50 speed tie in order to KO the Zekrom without being taken down to Sash. If I were to get taken down to Sash, then Cinderace just wins. Even if I were to not get taken down to Sash, if I have to Outrage to get the KO, then Finny would come in and Moonblast me. I would be locked in, and Finny would have a roll to KO depending on that spread. But what if I told you there was a line where I didn't have to risk this roll? Even though I won with the Max Quake only worked if he went for the Dragon Dance there. And in fact, if that were the case, I could have just gone for 1,000 arrows or 1,000 waves. And in that case, when he DDs, I still won because if you look at the HP bars, you see that I would live another Max Drake there. So 1,000 waving still won even if he Dragon Danced, and it's the worst case of him being DD weakness policy. But on top of that, if he were to have max Drake me turn 1, there's actually the option of me just not Dynamaxing the Zygarde and just Dynamaxing the Ditto. And in that case, I would actually have a 50% chance of winning because I will be able to Dynamax Ditto and change moves and not get locked into Outrage. So even though I won, that was a bit of a misplay. It was a bit hard to see, but so if you didn't see it the first time, there's no shame in that. I didn't see it either. That just goes to show you why it is so important to review your games, look through your replays. When I'm making these videos, I am learning as much as you guys are. I'm learning because I'm able to look at back at my replays and try to pick apart what I did wrong. Even when something seemed to go right. If something is suspicious, you weren't sure you had full control of the game, you should try analyzing the situation, even though it may take a lot of time. And that will make you a better player. And I'm also trying to be a better player. And now, this one is a very stereotypical Zacian team. He has Zapdos, a great Dynamax attacker. He also has screens with the Lapras, which makes it really hard for you to deal with the Zacian. He has a Ditto of his own, and unfortunately for me, he does not have a really super solid +2 Zacian answer, but he does have the Swampert, and my Ditto is not Scar, which is unfortunate. But so basically, if I can pressure him from getting the screen up for 2 free, I should be in a pretty good position. So I am actually going to lead Cinderace here, which should match up well against the Lapras and the Zacian. Zapdos is going to be my offensive check to just about everything on his team, and I'm going to use Ditto because he doesn't have a really good Ditto answer. Interesting lead here. He leads with Dragapult instead. Uh, it, because he also has Lapras and the Swampert, which are almost certainly dedicated leads, it is possible that he is also screens Dragapult, but it is quite unlikely. And the reason why I say that, even though like you really don't want to over-analyze your opponent's team on the ladder, is because if you have 3 dedicated leads, like that really restricts the potential amount of team preview options you can go for. And he does Dynamax here, so it is certainly not a screen supporter, it is going to be an attacker. And it is likely going to be going for a Dragon move. He doesn't want to Ghost move into a Sucker Punch, is what I'm guessing. So I do go for the Iron Head there, which was my strongest move, even if he were something else. And I do end up taking the Max Wormwind for resisted damage. So that is fine. That does a lot of damage. And it turns out it's because of a crit. But it doesn't matter because I am just going to be able to do a little bit more chip damage on the Dragapult with this Iron Head. And he should have, he knows that I'm Scarfed on the Cinderace, so he can go for a neutral move like Max Phantasm. So that crit, it really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. He gets a crit again, which is quite amusing, but again, not relevant at all. So I do get to bring my Zapdos in. The 2 Iron Heads and the Life Orb recalls have done quite a number to this Dragapult, and I am just going to be able to max Airstream. And it is possible for me to max Guard and preserve a little bit of health on the Zapdos. But one thing that is potentially going to be game ruining is if I max Guard and max Airstream, he could be actually a Phantom Force and waste all my turns of Dynamax. And he could have Zacian, Ditto in the back. That might not go really well for me. So I'm just going to take my KO here with the Airstream Fortunately, he is not some kind of max guard set, because as I said, like it's possible for him to be max guard, Phantom Force, and stall out my max turns that way. But no, that is not the case here. I do get the Airstream KO, and I'm actually in a really dominant position because likely what he has in the back options wise are Ditto, Zacian, or Zapdos of his own. So he has no way to cleanly take care of this Dynamax Zapdos. I am going to be able to fire off 2 max moves and get 2 KOs potentially. So this is exactly why when you use a lead Dynamax attacker, you want to have at least some kind of backup plan, or not even a backup plan, a plan to neutralize my Dynamax attacker after the Dynamax runs out. So I'm just going to Max Flare. And unless he has some significant bulk investment, which he does not, my Life Orb Max Flare is just going to one-hit KO the Zacian. And Zapdos looking pretty good. I have a free max attack to go for against anything. He brings out the Ditto, and there's no way Ditto is going to be surviving Life Orb Max Lightning from the Zapdos. So pretty straightforward. I'm just going to go for the kill. Actually, if I don't win this 1v1, Ditto cannot copy Ditto, so this could potentially go really bad for me, but that was close, and that was a crit, but not enough to knock me out. And I'm going to just go for the Max Lightning. Hopefully that kills. It does. And this is why Dynamaxing early can be not worth it unless you get the one-hit KO on the lead matchup. Because if you spend 2 turns KOing their lead with your lead Dynamax, then it isn't really too difficult for them to just go to a max guard, stall it out, or go to their max attacker and get the kill and get a reverse sweep. So this is going to be the 3rd game. I have a Ditto and he has the Calyrex Ghost. So that is very nice to see, because that means that we have a very free matchup there. I am going to go with the Zygarde somewhere on the team because it looks very good offensively and defensively. It is able to check Blaziken, Magnezone, and Nihilego, so I will probably be bringing the Zygarde and have a Ditto to revenge kill the Calyrex, and a Zapdos, which is going to be my Dynamax attacker. So he leads with the Dracovish, and I lead with the Zygarde. I don't have a switch out, so I am just going to be forced to go for the Coil. Fortunately, Zygarde is really tanky, so let's see what I can do in this 1v1. I will go for the Coil, and hopefully with the defense boosts and all my defensive investment and the HP boost from the complete form, I will be able to take a few more hits. With the leftovers, I am at a bit below half HP. My Power Construct activates, and that is going to bring me up to almost 2/3 HP. So here I am going to be able to go for another Coil. It could be a bit greedy though. So there are quite a few options. I could go for another Coil, but then I would be forced to rest while he switches out. Going for the 1000 waves is probably the better play here, because that means that he is unable to switch out after this Vicious Rend. That Vicious Rend was not going to 2-hit KO, and that meant that I was able to rest. Then at full HP, the fish's strength was not even 3-hit KOing, so I would be able to rest loop it. And actually, this is how this team wins a lot of its matches. I just didn't show the really drawn out time stalling ones because I just wasn't confident that you guys would like it. Because I do want to make videos that respect your time as well, so I do go for the rest, but I think that was a pretty big misplay because now he is able to switch out and I am forced to rest for a few more turns. So I burn my first turn of rest. This is going to be my second turn. I'm a bit scared of the Calyrex's damage, so I do go for the max guard here. Of course, I do stay asleep, but I was mainly trying to look for that doubled HP. And he does go for the nasty plot here. So again, the premature Dynamaxing, not the best play there. And I am going to go for the Max Quake. And let's see how much this actually does. He goes for the Max Phantasm, and that only does slightly above half. And in fact, with the Max Quake increasing my special defense, that is not going to 2-hit KO. And I do 2-hit KO. So what does that mean? Then that means that if I didn't waste this first turn of Dynamax while I was sleeping, I'll be in great shape. I would win this 1v1. But no, because I didn't, he is able to just go for the max guard, and I max Quake into it. I don't have any other option. And my max runs out. So that means that he is going to be able to get this KO with this Max Phantasm. Or I guess any other max move that he goes for. So I don't have any other switch. There's no point in preserving this Zygarde. I am going to let it die to this Max Mindstorm. And I'm going to have to bring in my Ditto. And hopefully Ditto can do much of the rest. Again, I am not Scarf Ditto, I am Sash Ditto, so I have to win this speed tie in order to preserve my Sash. But he goes for the Astral Barrage first, and that means that if he has some kind of Focus Sash in the back, then I'm going to lose this Calyrex, and my Ditto, I guess, and the Dracovish is just going to clean up. Dracovish being faster than my Zapdos, and of course going to be 1-hit KOing it. And his last is the Urshifu. So Sash Urshifu, very common. I am expecting to lose this one, but I have no option but to go for the Astral Barrage. It is immune to the Psyshock. And I go for the Astral Barrage and it just knocks out. So it must have been banded. So that actually is going to be winning me the game. This Calyrex is faster than even this Scarf Dracovish, and that is going to be a win for us. But I said in the first game, don't look at the win or loss, look at what could have happened, how I could have played that better. You could say I should have gone 1-2. The line I went to lost to Sash Urshifu 100%. Sash is a very common item, so I was actually more likely to lose than not. And there were a few good options. First was not wasting the max turn with the sleep, but even better was just not Dynamaxing my Zygarde at all. And then I would be able to Dynamax either the Zapdos or the Ditto, depending on the matchup. So if he has Urshifu or Magnezone in the back, I win with Dynamax Zapdos. If not, the Calyrex Ditto wins. So this is the team. I definitely wish I had more practice with the team before recording, but hopefully this is a good guide to show you guys how you want to play on the ladder, trying to improve every time. So a bit frustrated, but this is going to be it. Thank you, Kimho, for this really cool Zygarde team, and that's going to be it. Bye.